Hello class. Today we are going to be discussing our behavior change project on cell phone usage. In modern times where technology is now a big part of people's everyday lives, the overusage of cell phones has become an issue among many. The study that we will be discussing today will be focusing on reducing cell phone usage. The collaborators for this project included Morgan Barden, Shayna Bozzella, and Kyle Scabelli. While there are currently many research studies that focus on the negative effects of increased cell phone usage, there are very few studies that have actively tried to find different ways to potentially reduce cell phone usage. In one study conducted by Liao and Sunder in 2022, they were interested in finding the effects of silencing notifications on cell phone usage. It was hypothesized that silencing notifications would result in a decrease in cell phone usage due to it limiting distractions. Their research study included 138 participants, and data was collected on their daily cell phone usage using the screen time tool on each of the participants' iPhones. Cell phone usage was measured across different conditions, including notifications in the form of audio alerts, vibrations, and silence notifications. Cell phone usage was recorded based upon the frequency of phone pickups throughout the day. The results of this intervention did not support their hypothesis. Instead, the data suggested that silencing notifications resulted in an increase in phone pickups when compared to audio alerts and vibrate modes. This suggests that silencing phones can actually be counterproductive and result in the undesired effects of increased phone usage. In another study by Matt Cardhay in 2020, he conducted a systematic review that focused on interventions that are currently being studied for the purpose of reducing cell phone usage. The research question he was interested in answering was, what is the effectiveness of interventions to reduce mobile device usage among people aged 15 to 24? The systematic review was conducted by doing a comprehensive search of academic databases containing peer-reviewed journals between November 3rd and November 10th of 2018. In order to narrow down the results to those which were relevant, inclusion and exclusion criteria were set. There were a total of 5 peer-reviewed studies that met the criteria and were then evaluated using GO's weight of evidence framework, which examined the following areas of study quality: methodological quality, methodological relevance, and relevance to the research question. The results of the systematic review were that application-based interventions were most effective in reducing cell phone usage. On the other hand, there is little to no evidence pertaining to the effectiveness of therapeutic interventions in reducing cell phone usage.
Another study that was looked at, titled Reducing Problematic Social Media Use via a Package Intervention, decided to research ways of reducing problematic social media use. Stinson and Dallery recruited 9 participants who were undergraduate students between the ages of 18 to 25 who owned iPhones or computers with the ability to track usage. In the attempt to reduce the duration of social media use, a package intervention was implemented. This intervention included contingency management, which is rewarding positive behavior, automated notifications of application use, and the selection of alternative activities. Application limits were also used in the study, as described in the discussion section. The results of this study showed that the package intervention was effective in decreasing the daily duration of social media use for all 9 participants. However, time spent on their selective alternative activities did not increase.
The main study we based most of our research off of was reducing adolescent cell phone usage using an interdependent group contingency. The participants were 6 students, 3 males and 3 females, aged 14 to 18 in an alternative high school. 3 of the 6 students had either an Individualized Education Plan, IEP, or an Active 504 plan. During the study, the researchers were interested to see the effects of the contingency on cell phone usage for an individual and an entire class in an alternative high school classroom. The purpose of this study was to determine if an interdependent group contingency could reduce the cell phone usage of high school students. Interdependent group contingency are those in which the behavior of all the students within a group must meet or exceed a predetermined criteria, and the reinforcer is delivered to all members of the group. The results show that this study did support studies showing that group contingencies can be effective to change a behavior, reinstating that group contingencies had an abrupt impact on the individuals, students, and cell phone usage. In another study, the researchers wanted to know the effect of a contingency management plan plus deposit contract intervention on problematic smartphone usage, PSU. This study consisted of 6 college students, 2 undergraduates, and 4 graduate students. The primary dependent variable was the daily PSU. Each participant would submit their total duration of PSU. Due to some of the applications being necessary for daily function, there were some subtractions to the duration during the excluded application time. During the deposit contract intervention, if the participants met their daily goals during each 10-minute intervention, they earned back their entire $40 by the end of the study. If the participants did not meet their daily goal, then they would not receive any money, but have some of the money taken away. The results of the study show that overall, the CM plus deposit contract intervention did decrease the PSU for 4 out of 6 of the participants. The other 2 participants had insufficient effects while taking part of the study. One of the participants' cell phone usage during baseline was 4.6 hours per day, and during the intervention phase, the average went down to 2.3 hours per day.
The purpose of this study was to decrease the amount of time each of the participants spent using their cell phones. The participants were spending an average of 6.5 hours on their phones daily, and a lot of that time was spent involved in unimportant things such as social media. The goal was to reduce the total daily cell phone usage to an average of 4 hours per day and limit the amount of time spent on social media to 30 minutes per day.
Next, we will be going over the methods section of our project. The participants in our replication involved 2 females, Shayna B., age 28, and Morgan B., age 27, and 1 male named Kyle S., age 24, who are all master level students involved in online courses. The participants lived in various areas of the United States. The participants collected data for 24 hours, Monday through Sunday, between the hours of 12 a.m. and 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, over the course of several weeks. Participants spent the majority of the time at home and work during the hours of data collection. Each of the participants were interested in how often they use their cell phones during the week and what time the cell phone usage is the most.
During the study, each participant had 1 iPhone, which has the screen time setting programmed on the phone. Each participant had access to a computer, so they were able to upload data onto the duration recording sheet.
The target behavior for our behavior change project was cell phone usage. The operational definition of cell phone usage is the following. Any point in time where a person is holding the phone and or looking at or touching the screen to turn it on, or using thumbs or fingers to operate the phone. The example we included is picking up phone to check the screen and look at notification. The non-example we included is moving the phone to different locations without looking at the screen.
Data was collected using duration recordings to track total hours of screen time. The data was recorded using a Google document form and a computer. During all phases, participants used the behavior recording form to record the total amount of screen time usage from 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Screen Time app was used to track total duration of daily cell phone usage. The participants recorded every day, Monday through Sunday, during a 24-hour time slot. Here displayed is the table that was used to track each of the participants' data. Every day, the participants inputted their data in this table in a shared Excel spreadsheet where each of the participants can view any and all changes that were made.
During the study, we used an A-B design that could also be known as a reversal design. An A-B design study include A, baseline measurement, B, measurement of correct responses during intervention, or in this case, how long did the participants spend on their phone with a 4-hour time limit? The 4-hour time limit is the intervention. A is returning back to the baseline, and B is returning back to the intervention.
During the baseline phase of the study, the procedure was almost identical to that of the original study. In other words, the data was simply collected without interrupting or correcting the normal usage of the cell phone. All of the participants were given unlimited access to all applications on their phones. Once we moved into the intervention phase, during the first day of intervention, we went over the checklist provided by Kyle regarding what was expected of us over the course of the replication. Expectations that were outlined included the following. 1. Each participant is expected to keep track of their daily cell phone usage through the Screen Time application. 2. Each participant is expected to record duration data on their daily cell phone usage. 3. Each participant is expected to set 30-minute time limits on apps unrelated to school and/or work. 4. Each participant is expected to send screenshots of daily cell phone usage to other participants over text. And 5. Participants will discontinue use of apps once they have reached their 30-minute time limit. Once we went over these expectations, we each confirmed our understanding. Morgan emailed data sheets to each of the participants so we could begin collecting data individually. Each subsequent day of the intervention, in both intervention phases, we continued to collect data on our independent cell phone usage, in addition to sending each other daily screenshots of the cell phone usage captured through the Screen Time application. Shayna checked in with everyone once a week and provided reminders to make sure we were continuing to follow through with everything that was expected of us.
During each phase, all participants measured IOA by sending screenshots of their Screen Time app to each member in the group. The screenshots captured had the time in the upper right-hand corner, so each group member knew that the screenshot was taken by 12 p.m. Each member in the group measured IOA 20% of the time during each phase according to the treatment fidelity checklist. Kyle took data for Morgan took data for Shayna, and Shayna took data for Kyle once the screenshots were sent. The data was recorded using the data collection sheet in Figure 2. The data collected was shared between partners in a Google Doc. Once the partner took the data, the original participant calculated the IOA data. IOA was calculated using total duration IOA, in which the smaller duration was divided by the larger duration and multiplied by 100 to find the IOA percentage. Here are the IOA results for Morgan. 8 non-consecutive sessions were used to track IOA for Morgan. Kyle took Morgan's data and compared her own data recording. As you can see from the graph, the total IOA percentage is 100%. As discussed in the previous slide, IOA was calculated using total duration IOA. Here are Shayna's IOA results. Similar to Morgan's table, Shayna's data collection was compared to what Morgan recorded for Shayna. The IOA percentage is also at 100%. Here are Kyle's IOA results. Same as the last two IOA tables, Kyle's data was compared to what Shayna recorded for Kyle. Using total duration IOA, the IOA percentage for Kyle is 100%.
Treatment integrity was assessed by having the participants follow the checklist. Here is the treatment integrity checklist. Participants kept track of screen time usage through smartphone app. Participants kept track of and recorded data on the data collection sheet. Participants set 30-minute time limits for social media apps through the screen time usage app. Participants sent screenshots of screen time usage to other participants. Participants did not continue to use apps after 30-minute time limit was up. And each participant took treatment integrity data 4 to 5 times during different parts of the study. When taking this data, you would either say yes, that you did it, or no, that you did not. The participants input how many of the actions they followed and calculated their treatment integrity percentage by following the provided formula below. Treatment integrity equals the number of actions followed divided by the total number of actions times 100. This is what Morgan's treatment integrity data looks like after selecting 5 random sessions. Morgan had 5 yeses on her data collection, meaning the TI percentage was 100%. This is what Shayna's treatment integrity data looks like after selecting 5 random sessions. Shayna had 5 yeses on her data collection, meaning the TI percentage was 100%. This is what Kyle's treatment integrity data looks like after selecting 4 random sessions. Kyle had 5 yeses on his data collection, meaning the TI percentage was 100%.
The following slides will include the results of each of the participants in this study. First, we will be going over Shayna's results. The table presented includes the duration data collected by Shayna during the baseline and intervention phases of the reversal design. During the first baseline phase, her mean hours of cell phone usage were 7 hours and 20 minutes, with a range of 8 hours and 26 minutes. During the first treatment phase, the mean hours of cell phone usage decreased to 3 hours and 47 minutes, with a range of 3 hours and 11 minutes. During the return to baseline phase, her mean hours of cell phone usage increased once again to 6 hours and 24 minutes with a range of 2 hours and 59 minutes. Finally, in the return to treatment phase, her mean hours of cell phone usage again decreased to 3 hours and 46 minutes with a range of 2 hours and 31 minutes. This slide shows the graph of Shayna's data across all phases of the reversal design. During the first baseline phase, the hours of cell phone usage were mostly high, with some variability that was evident during the second and sixth session. As the data shows during the first treatment phase, there was an overall decreasing trend in the data. When moving into the return to baseline phase, there was an immediate increase in hours of cell phone usage from 3 hours and 12 minutes at the end of the treatment phase to 7 hours and 30 minutes at the beginning of the return to baseline phase. In the return to treatment phase, there was again an immediate large decrease in the data from 7 hours and 45 minutes at the end of the return to baseline phase to 2 hours and 28 minutes at the start of the return to treatment phase. These results indicate that the implementation of app limits supported the hypothesis and resulted in a decrease in cell phone usage. Next, we will be going over Kyle's results. The table presented includes the duration data collected by Kyle during the baseline and intervention phases of the reversal design. During the first baseline phase, his mean hours of cell phone usage were 6 hours and 10 minutes with a range of 3 hours and 5 minutes. During the first treatment phase, his mean hours of cell phone usage reduced to 3 hours and 16 minutes with a range of 3 hours and 6 minutes. During the return to baseline phase, the mean hours of cell phone usage increased to 5 hours and 4 minutes with a range of 2 hours. Finally, during the return to treatment phase, the mean hours of cell phone usage again decreased to 3 hours and 3 minutes with a range of 48 minutes. The graph displayed shows Kyle's data across all phases of the reversal design. During the first baseline phase, his hours of cell phone usage were very high on average. When moving into the first treatment phase, there was an immediate decrease in cell phone usage from 5 hours and 35 minutes at the end of the baseline phase to 1 hour and 46 minutes at the beginning of the treatment phase. However, there appeared to be an increasing trend throughout the remainder of the first treatment phase. During the return to baseline phase, the data remained at a high level, as can be seen in the graph. Finally, during the return to treatment phase, the data again immediately decreased from 5 hours and 33 minutes at the end of the baseline phase to 3 hours and 20 minutes at the beginning of the return to treatment phase. The data mostly stayed at the same level, with some variability in the data that was apparent during the 27th session. Because the data did not remain at a low level throughout the entire duration of the treatment phases, it is more difficult to confidently say that the intervention was effective for this participant. Finally, we will be going over Morgan's results. The table presented includes the data that was collected by Morgan during the baseline and intervention phases of the reversal design. During the first baseline phase, her mean hours of cell phone usage were 5 hours and 55 minutes with a range of 2 hours and 5 minutes. During the first treatment phase, her hours of cell phone usage decreased to a mean of 3 hours and 33 minutes with a range of 30 minutes. During the second baseline phase, her hours of cell phone usage had a slight increase to a mean of 4 hours and 20 minutes with a range of 2 hours. And finally, in the return to treatment phase, the mean hours of cell phone usage decreased once again to 3 hours and 38 minutes with a range of 3 hours and 50 minutes. The graph displayed shows Morgan's data across all phases of the reversal design. During the first baseline phase, her data remained at a high level as indicated by the graph. When entering the first treatment phase, there was an immediate decrease from 6 hours and 3 minutes at the end of the baseline phase to 3 hours and 55 minutes at the beginning of the treatment phase. As the graph shows, the data remained stable throughout the entire duration of the treatment phase. At the beginning of the return to baseline phase, there was an immediate increase from 2 hours and 43 minutes at the end of the treatment phase to 4 hours and 30 minutes at the beginning of the return to baseline phase. Although, as shown in the graph, the data never reached the high level that it was at in the initial baseline phase and remained at an average of 4.5 hours of cell phone usage. At the beginning of the return to treatment phase, there was an immediate slight decrease in the data from 4 hours and 52 minutes at the end of the return to baseline phase to 3 hours and 24 minutes at the beginning of the return to treatment phase. As the data shows, there was some overlap in the data between the return to baseline and return to treatment phases. Although there were slight decreases in the cell phone usage across all phases, it was not significant enough to clearly indicate that app limits were an effective intervention for this participant. To conclude what was discussed in the presentation today, our group behavior change project focused on decreasing cell phone usage, as this was something that each of the participants engaged in overuse of at the start of the project. We conducted a reversal design with the intervention of placing 30-minute app limits on unimportant apps and keeping track of daily cell phone usage using the screen time application on our iPhones. So, will 30-minute app limits decrease cell phone usage? Based on the results of our study, although there was a slight decrease in cell phone usage, the change was not significant enough to determine the effectiveness of this intervention. Further research would be needed among a larger sample size and for a longer duration of time in order to be able to more confidently determine the intervention's effectiveness.
One of the limitations I found personally as a parent was text messages. During the first treatment phase, we had set a 30-minute time limit for text messages, since that was grouped into our social media. As a parent, that was a huge limitation for me due to not being home with my child, and the only way I could communicate with the sitter was via text messages. So we did change that text messages did not count in our 30-minute app limitation, but did still count in our total screen time. Another limitation we found as a group was Google or Apple Maps. For all of us, this was an app that we used daily due to work or daily living. It was not reasonable to set a 30-minute time limitation on maps due to not knowing how long and how often we would be traveling. Some of us would drive hours at a time during the day. This did not count in our overall phone time due to this app being out of our control when we needed to use it. As a group, we had to decide if it would be best for all of us to not count maps in our total screen usage. The screen usage time app was also a limitation for all of us. When setting time limitations on social media, it would set 30 minutes to all of the applications we selected for social media instead of each individual application having a timer of 30 minutes. This would make us more self-aware of how long we were using the social media app, but it would also mean we were checking our screen time app more to make sure we were not going over the allowed 30 minutes per app. In some cases, this could increase our screen time by checking the screen time setting multiple times a day. Time constraint was one of our biggest limitations. Since we only had 4 weeks to take data, our baseline was not stable before moving on to our treatment. This did not hurt our results, but by having a stable baseline, we could have better understood what our most used app was and at what time we use this app the most. Insufficient sample size is another limitation our group came up with during the study. Since there were only 3 group members and 2 were female and 1 male, we did not feel like we had enough diversity in our sample size. When finding research to go along with this study, there were not many articles that conducted a research on cell phone usage. This made our jobs a little harder finding research and knowing how we should be conducting the study. The last limitation was the data collection method. When we first started the study, we thought frequency was going to be the best way to collect data. We quickly realized that was not the case and duration recording was the best way. We also fixed the time frame that we collected data to, due to the screen time setting not breaking down the times enough for us to get accurate data.
Here are all the contributions that were made by each participant throughout the course of this project. Morgan found research articles for the literature review, added to the PowerPoint presentation, made the graphs for each participant's data, and typed the outline for the report and added information to the document. Shayna found research articles for the literature review as well. She created the APA format tables for each of the participants' data, IOA, and treatment integrity, typed the outline for the PowerPoint, and added information to the slides, and reminded group members when it was time to switch faces throughout the experiment. Kyle also found research articles for the literature review, added to the PowerPoint presentation, and calculated all the means and ranges for all data tables for each participant. All participants contributed equally for writing up the report.